It's great to be joined by Ronnie from As It Is. How you doing?
Yo, I am so good at Hertz. We are currently in the Midwest in the middle of a snowstorm on the Welcome to Elsewhere tour. We set it off, and this tour has been nothing less than interesting. Happy to be here.
What time is it over there? Because this is what I love about Zoom is the fact that it's like 7 p.m. in the UK and it's what, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
It is 2 p.m. Standard Eastern time. Yes.
This is the one good thing about the pandemic is that this became more of a thing. But it's great to be able to do this.
So I'm the type of person where I'm a serial FaceTimer. I mean, if I get a text from you, I will be the first person to just like, boom, FaceTime. And you're like, hey, listen, I'm just trying to text you. I'm like, hey, listen, well, I'm just trying to FaceTime you. So we got to meet in the middle. So no, I actually really love the video call. So this is great.
Yeah. I mean, first being the people in person, but obviously you're in the Midwest and I'm in Fairham, so it's a bit different.
Yeah, I just to give you a little view. I mean, I don't even know if you can see out there.
Wow,
I don't even know if you can see the snow. It's coming down.
Yeah, I mean, we never get snow, so that's a nice view.
Yeah, no doubt. It is silver skies over there. I miss the UK right now, actually. I haven't been back in a few months. I was just recently over for our frontman Patty, his wedding. I was his best man, so I got to fly over. And before that was slam dunk. Hell, before that it was just before the pandemic. So I need to. I look forward to now that the world is opening back up and getting over there a little more.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have you guys back. I feel really bad because I heard I missed 2003 and thought, oh, this band's great. I really like these. Started telling all my friends and they were like, yeah, they've been around for ages. I was like, why didn't you tell me? Why did no one tell me?
You want to know what's wild, Dave, is that this album, in so many ways, is reintroducing us, or maybe just introducing us for the first time.
Yeah.
Where so many people have not heard of us, and obviously we're so fortunate that so many people and so many of these songs are starting to like really catch on. Obviously, I Don't Give a Fuck went off really, really well when we dropped it in May, and we had this strategy where we're like, we just want to drop a new song every 6 to 8 weeks. And we want to be consistent. Obviously, we have no idea how long this pandemic's going to go on for. So let's just be as song heavy as we possibly can, because we haven't dropped a record, hell, at that point, almost 3 years.
Yeah.
So, between the IDGAF to Live to Me to we did a double drop right before Slam Dunk. I actually think the day before Slam Dunk, we did I Love You, How Are You, I Don't Care, I Can't Take It, double drop. And then while we're over there, we actually filmed the music video for I Miss 2003. And this was last minute. I mean, we were like sitting around kicking ideas and like this cycle, we're just like, what can we do that is to keep us fresh and reinvigorating, but like also pays homage to like everything that we wanted to do when we were coming up in the scene as kids, and after we wrote I Miss 2003, we knew we wanted to shoot a skate park video, and we were looking into doing it Brighton at like the outdoor park.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know if we could get all the permits necessary. So right up the street in Brighton, they have an awesome indoor park, and it's a non-for-profit, really, really rad place. We ended up hiring out some local skaters, of all ages to rock up. We put out a post, I think like 18 hours before, and we ended up having 100 fans sign like a thing and like come out with a waiver, and all last minute. This was like last minute. Our guy Ian pulled up. He's been with the band since like the Sticky Mike days, like way back when. But yeah, that entire thing with I Miss 2003 was the last record that we wrote, or the last song that we wrote for the record. It was a last minute video, but everything about it was just like the throw and go. I think it's like the youth and the energy of that era and that time. It was just coursing through our veins after we wrote it, and we seized every opportunity we could. And then obviously we just dropped in threes as well. So we're 6 singles down on the heaviest hitting record we've ever had, 14 songs. It is a deep record. It's a big one. We were like, we want to be really single heavy, which means in order to do that in 2022, we have to put more songs on the record. And we wasted no plastic on this one, my friend.
See, maybe I was looking a bit too deep into the video for I Miss 2003. I was thinking, oh, is this like a nod to Tony Hawk's Skater Pro, because that was massive when I was a kid.
Well, of course, but the thing is that it is, but that's something that's embedded in our DNA. That's our subconscious, So you're not wrong. That is absolutely. We're paying homage to all of those things. We're like really big fans of like CKY, of Jackass, of Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I mean, we had every single copy on N64 growing up, And we actually just did a photo shoot in Orlando. I found a skate park on one of our off days, and our friend Mac Frade, who's out here photographing, set it off, hit us up on a day off, and we hit the skate park. And I was just like, this reminds me of the Burnside level of like the, you know, like the skate park Burnside that's in Tony Hawk. I think it's 2. I think it's Tony Hawk 2. Yeah. And I was like, that's the vibe out of like 8 skate parks. And I was like, no, this is the one. And Kerrang actually just posted 2 of the photos, and we'll have some more from that shoot. But man, yeah, this record's useful. We want to make sure that we're it's super important to us on this record that we're staying true and genuine and authentic to, you know, what got us in the scene, why we're in the scene, and why today, like, you know, the there then now kind of thing, you know, the past, present, and the future. So we just knew going into the pandemic, we're like, shit, we've got to do something that puts us and gives us like some life, because right now we don't have a lot of it, you know. And I feel like a lot of this record is us kind of putting our money where our mouth is and speaking up on our own personal mental health, you know, as is less broad and more the internal conflict, and, you know, just shedding light on, I think, the dark side of our minds. So as much as it's youthful and it's light on its feet and it's really like upbeat, you know, it's still very dark, but it's hopeful too, you know. If you let me go, man, I'll rant. I'll rip a Ron rant on you right now.
Oh, I like this. No, I was with the saying about the dark sort of element of it. It's like, obviously you pop punk, so that there was automatically that sort of uplifting sort of feel, but especially like in threes, the production behind that, like the drums, the electronic, that's quite dark and sinister. And the comparison of the 2 singles, I was like straight away, yes, I like this.
It's wild because when we went into that session with a long-term friend, Cody Carson, who set it off, we intended on writing a very upbeat, poppy song, something super upbeat, something really like, just like, think of like a strawberry candy, you know. We were going to like do something like way different, because we're like, oh, let's take the opportunity and let's explore something on like the poppiest side that we've ever done. And in many ways, In Threes is still kind of one of the poppiest songs we've ever done, but in a very dark, moody way.
Yeah, very dark.
And in the production, it was like, let's just do something that, one, we've never done, and it started with that really sludgy, you know, and then that beat kicks in, and we wrote that out and produced that out with Zach Jones in LA, and it was one of those things where the energy was right, it was right people, right room, right moment, right day. Didn't write songs on Rhoda, you know, and from the lyrics, the melody, you know, we're writing about like a fire that's happening, like the house is like burning down and it's starting from the inside out, but it's not metaphorically, the house is our head, it's like our mind, and the fire is inside of our head and no one can see it. So like all of our neighbors think that like our grass is trimmed and everything's like really nice and it's a white picket fence and everything's like really clean on the outside, like, oh, nothing's wrong with that out there, like definitely happy there, but on the inside we're just in flames, you know, and no one can really see the smoke yet. So which subsequently, it's really funny because super odd, but Cody Carson actually cameoed in a music video on a FaceTime, and when he was sending the video to me for the I Don't Care, I Can't Take It, you'll see his face in that one, he was doing it. Obviously, we're not using the audio, only the visuals. He's like, hey, how's it going? I'm pretending to talk to you because we're friends, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, his fire alarm starts going off. Well, it turns out in that video that he sent me, the fire alarm is in the same key that we wrote the song in. So you actually hear the fire alarm in our song. We put that in. And then the AC unit made a beeping noise, like the beep, beep. And it was also in the same key. And it just went off in time while we're in the studio. So we ended up sampling that with a voice memo demo, and we layered that into the song as well. So there's so many unique elements that kind of came into play, and where it was just like that song was meant to be. And we always wanted a collaboration to set it off. One, obviously, just like the brotherhood and the friendship first, but we're just super comfortable. And it was one of those things where there was never a no ever in the room. It was always like, let's try it. And believe it or not, we cut that song in all of like 5 or 6 hours tops. you know, and it was just one of those things where, like I said, right people, right room, right
Yeah.
vibe, right energy, and yeah, it was fun.
Sometimes it just works. There's not. Sometimes it takes years to, but then sometimes it's literally hours, and it just it falls into place.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, like, not even to sound like egotistical or anything like that, because, you know, Cody and Patty, myself and Zach, like, we care about the craft of songwriting so much. It's
Oh
something
yeah,
we take very seriously, and we love it. And we put a lot of energy, thought, time into it, you know. And I oftentimes, like, we leave a room after 3, 4, 5, 6 hours after doing something like that, and we're like, man, is this just in our heads, or is this really as dope as it feels right now, you know? And I oftentimes think, like, you know, when Babe Ruth hit his like 555th home run, do you think like he didn't run the bases and was like, oh no, let me redo it, it wasn't good? It's like, no, he put in that time and that energy to be able to do that. So I feel like when you have, like, you know, like a powerful room like that, you know, I don't think that you necessarily like judge the time in which it took you as much as you judge the end product, right? And like you said, the process changes and it's different. You know, some days we could write a song for 6 weeks, 6 months. There's some songs in Patty's vault that I think he's still writing after 6 years.
yeah.
You know, but it's very much so one of those things in this record where we're like, all right, if it feels good, if it sounds good, if it makes us feel something, let it just be that, and let's move the hell on. Because one thing we did do with this record was beat a dead horse. You know, if we sat on it for a very long time, we scrapped it, it's done, we're moving on. Like, we wrote so many songs that, like, we spent no more than an hour on, where it's like fully fleshed out. Probably 100 songs exist in the Hemisphere, you know, with like lyrical VMDs and hooks and all these instrumentals, and we just canned them after an hour because ultimately, like, they just fill up for us, and it wasn't like that nonstop train. So, like,
Yeah.
these are the 14 songs that just moved us, and it moved us quickly, and we didn't want to question them. And it was like, in the moment, we were hoping the outcome would be, if we can make people feel what we feel in this moment right now by just cutting it and letting it be, hopefully that'll work for us.
Yeah.
You know, and so far, so good. You
It's
know, it's going well. It's a fucking, like, we see this thing coming out, and it's like, this record drops. Today's February 3rd. Did we talk about the day? We're talking about the day. Today's February 3rd. The album dropped February 4th.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, holy heck, this thing's coming out, and it's happening. It's all happening.
It's like an honest energy, like you're saying, because like you just, if you weren't feeling the song, you just cut it and moved on. I'm feeling that in the songs, like just that sort of energy, that vibe, that sort of honesty. It's like you were enjoying it. You sound like you were in just a really good place as a band. Like, even going, you know, like talking about like sort of mental health, like, but in a positive way, like talking about, you know, you still seemed open to it and stuff like that, rather than just kind of like,
yeah. It's one of those things too, where when we were writing this record, we were arguably in the worst mental, emotional, probably physical space too, because, you know, we worked so hard to do and to be something, and then when that's taken away from you and it's out of your control, and there's no timeline, there's not an expiration date. I mean, heck, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we're somewhere in the Midwest, you know, 5,000 miles away from home, in the middle of a snowstorm. We've had 2 weather cancellations. We've had 1 COVID cancellation. We've had 2 COVID cases. We have, like, all of these obstacles.
yeah,
So even touring in 2022, like, we just dropped the song I Miss 2003, but we're all joking. We're like, we really should have released a song that said I Miss Touring in 2018, you know, like, you know, but it's one of those things where we were in a very dark place. But I think the premise of the record is, you know, the biggest thing is I went to hell, but the last 2 words are the standout and back. You know, it's like, this was our journey. This is what we found. This is what we felt. We put our money where our mouth is. And the thing is that for the first time, probably in the history since the Great Depression that our grandparents were in, you know, for the first time in history, our generation probably is all feeling the same exact thing at the same exact time. And that is a very unique thing. You know, anxiety is at an all-time high. Depression is at an all-time high. You know, self-sabotage, self-hate, you know, thoughts of self-harm and suicide. Like, these are all very real things. And they exist in us. And tour gives you the opportunity and the ability to escape a lot of those things, because it's just onto the next, onto the next, onto the next. But when touring came to a halt, we came home, and it's like an identity crisis. You know, it's like, oh, heck, what the heck are we if we're not touring rock band as it is? like who are we as individuals coming home after spending the last 3, 5, 7, 10 years only focusing on this, you know? And I feel like where our words have failed, because we're not a very big social media band. We're doing our best, you know. It's hard to stay positive, you know, and to be posting a highlight reel when there's not much of that, you know, during the time. So where our words have failed the last few years, we believe this album will speak, truly.
Yeah.
So.
No, I've been loving the singles that we've had so far. Just to quickly get on Miss 2003, because I was really annoyed because you put out the thing like guess the 13 references. I thought I'm going to smash this. I only got 5, and I was really annoyed. I missed Jimmy Eat World because Jimmy Eat World are one of the most underrated bands of all time. I love Jim.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
You know, I shook Jim's hand. We played Jimmy Eat World, or a festival with Jimmy Eat World. It was Gunnersville. And it was in the heart of London, like in a park under a big blue tent. And it's so funny because like he's just outside of the blue tent, and the way that like the sun was like coming through a cloud, and he was like playing an acoustic guitar, and he's all alone. And I'm like, that's Jim. And I was just like, he's real. You know, like how many interviews have you seen with Jim? Like, like, have you heard his voice, like his talking voice outside of a concert? Like, who even is Jim of Jimmy Eat World? And so I was like, I'm like looking at him, I'm like, I need to shake his hand, right? Like that's what you do. Like you say, you have to say hi, you know? And he was walking into like the green room area, and he's just like he's like a unicorn. He's just like so graceful, and he's just like beautiful, you know. He's just like walking. He's just like he doesn't even seem like a real human being, you know. Like, hey Jim, how are you? He's like, hey man, how are you? And we cut up for like 2 or 3 minutes, and I walked away, and I was just like, wow, that is something that I never thought would happen when I was like in 12th grade, watching my friends cover, you know, Sweetness for Putting on the Hits is like a mock concert, you know, when we were in like middle school. That was my first introduction to Jimmy Eat World, and Sweetness has stuck with me since. I put it on every rock playlist. It gets jammed in Bleed American. It gets jammed in the Sprinter, in the bus, in the van, in the Jeep, wherever the heck we are. Like Jimmy Eat World is on the playlist. So that was one of the definitely one of, and there's actually 14 references. We just didn't know if anyone would find the 14th one, so there's an Easter egg in there. And I'll give you that one. It's actually, are you a fan of The Used?
Yes.
Yep. So The Used, Taste of Ink. It's 4:00 in the fucking morning. So originally, Patty had written it to be 3 a.m. And I'm like, you know, if we actually put 4 a.m., that's actually an ode to The Used. And obviously, we're huge fans of The Used, Burt McCracken. And actually, there's a song on our record that we pay homage to them, or at least the energy and the vibe when we're trying to encapsulate. It was Take It Away, and that song's called I Want to See God. So lots of love for those guys. And so the 4 a.m. reference is tipping our hat to a couple bands that built us, and you know, The Used was a really big part of our lives.
I know, it's amazing because I was 12 in 2013, so all those bands was when I was first discovering music, like for myself. I love all of them. I was like, yes, 100%. Every song.
That's it.
Like this.
You know, that was it. Yeah, man. I mean, like even like the 90s, like my sister, Lindsay, is I owe her everything for who I am, like as a creative and as a musician, because she opened my mind to hip hop. You know, coming up in Detroit, I feel like before A&R was like a thing in the streets of Detroit, like Lindsay had like, you know, mixtapes and was like always like putting songs on tapes. And was like, oh, this is sick. So when I was driving around with her and her friends when I was like 6, 7 years old, she's playing like Tupac and, you know, Biggie, and she's playing Nirvana, and she introduced me to this whole world of music. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And the people that are listening to these songs, they look cool and they sound cool and they talk cool and they're all smoking cigarettes. I'm like, man, they're all so cool, you know? So I feel like coming up at an early age, you know, and then obviously getting into, you know, like Linkin Park and like the new metal and like the POD, and it getting into like then eventually like the drive-through era. Well, obviously, you know, the Good Charlotte, the Blink-182 and the MXPX and the Social Distortions and, you know, Rancid, but then going into like, you know, Simple Plan and Homegrown and Alistair, and going down like this rabbit hole of drive-through bands. you know, and then going into a tooth and nail phase of like the post-hardcore where I'm like now hardcore dancing and flailing my arms around in a mosh pit wearing like Adidas Sambas and gym shorts, you know, with like a cutoff shirt, looking like an idiot, you know. Yeah, this scene is the reason why we have our personality, the reason why we have our identity. It gave us a home, it gave us a place, it gave us a place to not just express ourselves, but man, after a long week at home, no matter what would happen, you know, I would collect, you know, 500 pop bottles or, you know, 150 pop bottles, whatever it would be. And I would either buy the CD and then I would get a ticket to the show, and all of us would throw in $5 in gas, and we would drive 2 hours to the nearest venue as 16 years old. And we would hardcore dance, and we would sweat, and we would bleed, and we would fight. It built us. This scene is amazing, you know, and this is our love letter to the scene. I Miss 2003 is our love letter to the scene for, you know.
I mean, music is a community, especially I love the alternative community. It's one of the greatest things to ever be involved with. Everyone is just so nice, and the music is just amazing as well. And it's just the whole thing. Like you said, when I was like a kid, when I was a teenager, you'd feel like shit, and then you put on a record, and you're just like, I know what's happening. Like it.
Yeah, it's like my first tattoo was a Coheed and Cambria tattoo. You know, me and my best friend Davey. You know, when we would like be like dancing in mosh pits, people thought we were in a gang because we had the dragonfly on the back of our arm, and he had a different color than I did. He had red and I had green. So they're like, "Oh, what gang are you guys?" And we're like, "Oh no, we're really big fans of Coheed, and we're like brothers." So you know, that's just why we got it, you know. But it's just, you know, it's like when you get branded like that, it just like opens up a completely different door. It's like I've been in coffee shops all over the world, and people are like, "Yo, Coheed, I have it too." And it just starts an entire conversation. And before you know it, I burned an hour out of my day talking to a complete stranger, you know, about, you know, with the New Jersey City Atlantic, the Jersey City Atlantic song by Coheed. It was one of the first I listened to him, where it comes in on the bell, you know, riding. It's like I could go on for hours about this scene and about what it's done for me and how it's crafted the man that I am and the men that we are, you know. And it's one thing that I feel like there's no way this record would exist if we didn't grow up in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
there's no way we wouldn't be here. Let's face it.
Yeah.
What would you be doing, Dave?
Yeah. I mean, it is the best. It was the best time to grow up, because at the early 2000s we had like the rise of new metal. I'm a proper new metal kid at heart, but then we also had like the early days of Slipknot and like Deftones and Korn and Biscuit, and
100%. Oh, Limp Bizkit, let's go. Korn, Disturbed. I'm trying to think of like a lot of these bands that were like on MTV2 and on Fuse Television. Well, I used to watch it back when it was like Much Music USA. So I remember all of those bands and watching all those bands, you know, on like TRL, and like when it was really booming. And it was like for a moment, it's like, which, let's face it, like now in 2022, like this music is back, you know, like it's back and it's stronger than ever, and it's at the forefront. Like guitars are in every single genre, and they're not just guitars, they're turned up, you know, like guitars are loud and they're at the forefront of the genre. So many genres are bending, and the one thing that they have in common is, you know, the youth of the early 2000s, you know, and that punk rock sensibility and attitude of the 90s, you know. It's never been cooler to see hip hop and punk rock come together in a really cool, sincere way. And it's allowing everyone to win right now. And, you know, I'm just happy that I'm still alive to see it. You know, like to see it come back full swing. It's like, I'm at my mom's house, you know, going through old boxes. I'm pulling out pins and patches from when I was 12, and I'm putting them on my hat now, you know, and I'm wearing them on my Dickie pants, and I'm wearing Converse that I bought 25 years ago. They used to get made fun of. I'd wear to basketball practice because they weren't cool, but I loved watching The Sandlot, Dave. So I was like, I want Converse because those look cool. They weren't cool. They're cool now. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, you know, I feel like I'm living my best life now. I get an opportunity to relive my childhood as a grown adult man, and it rocks. It's never been cooler. You know. And also inspire other kids. Yeah. Oh yeah, just to be yourself, and just be yourself. You know, it's like all the people that allowed me to be myself. You know, when I was walking through the halls and having stuff thrown at me and being pushed into lockers. You know, it's like the things that got me through those school days were these bands. And if As Is can be that and contribute to that, there's a lot of strength and a lot of power in the scene. And I think that songs have a really unique ability to pull you out or pull you through or to push you through some of the weird, tough, like turbulent trial-ish times, So it feels good.
Thank you so much, Ronnie, for your time. I know you're in the middle of a snowstorm, and in a coffee shop in the middle of nowhere. So I'll let you go.
Wouldn't have missed it. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. That's all love. And let's do it again sometime.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, hopefully when you're in the UK next.
I tell you what, we're late May, early June. We are supporting the absolute legends and good friends in Mayday Parade all over the UK. I think there's 8 tour dates. Come out to one.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you very much.